You're locked into the Liberty Flames podcast, powered by Rogers Heating and Cooling, servicing Greater Lynchburg's HVAC and electrical needs. Schedule your service today at callrogers.com.
The Liberty Flames mobile app is a must-have for game days. When you download the app, your access to Flames Nation is in the palm of your hand. Listen to our live Liberty Flames Sports Network audio broadcast. Click the Media tab, and under Audio, find the live broadcast in progress. Football, basketball, baseball, coaches shows, all right here. Purchase and manage tickets to the next Flames home game. Click the Tickets tab. Select Purchase Tickets. Then you have the ability to buy seats to the next game. Download those tickets directly to your device and scan them at the gate. Or select Manage Tickets to download your previously purchased tickets or parking pass. Transfer or sell your tickets easily through the Manage Tickets button. Download the Liberty Flames mobile app today from your App Store or Google Play.
Welcome to the NAZSCAR podcast with Nick Pierce. Don't worry, there's no lap, traffic, or caution flags here. Paul Nazigian and Tim Scarborough are here to bring you the latest on Liberty Flames basketball and mid-major hoops. Now, let's get to it. Here's Nick, Naz, and Scar.
And we're back with another edition of NAZSCAR. Welcome back in here on the Liberty Flames podcast family, presented by Rogers Heating and Cooling. I'm Nick Pierce, along with Paul Nazigian and Tim Scarborough. Naz and Scar here with you. We're talking Flames hoops. We're talking Conference USA, college basketball as a whole, right through the middle of January. And this is when things really start getting exciting. You're about halfway through your conference schedule. Some teams starting to separate a little bit. Fair to say that the Flames look like they're separating themselves from the rest of the pack in CUSA. We'll recap a couple of wins for the Flames at home last week here on NAZSCAR this week. Glad to have you along once again. If you're not following us yet, I encourage you to go ahead and hit that follow button and subscribe to the Liberty Flames podcast. Again, powered by Rogers Heating and Cooling. Schedule your service at callrogers.com. But hit that follow button, subscribe. You'll get our shows downloaded directly to you. If you're on Apple, Spotify, you can also find us on the Liberty Flames mobile app. And, of course, our show, if you want to look at our mugs, you can see us on the Liberty Flames YouTube page as well, each and every Tuesday coming your way here with the latest NAZSCAR podcast. But again, guys, Flames are 7-0, and they took care of business at home this past week. I guess maybe a scare on Thursday against New Mexico State, 73-71. Got it done against UTEP on Saturday, 80-69. And I'll hit you guys with this stat to lead it off here. The Flames now one of 21 teams in the country to remain unbeaten in conference play. And of the teams with at least 7 wins and are unbeaten in conference, there's 8 of them, counting Liberty. The other names on that list, Gonzaga, San Diego State, Murray State, ranked Miami of Ohio team, number 7 Nebraska, number 4 Purdue, number 2 UConn, and Liberty. So those are the teams that are unbeaten in their leagues with at least 7 victories. That's pretty good company for the Flames. Naz, I know you were on the call for Saturday's game. Nice win at home for Liberty to round out the week, right?
Yeah, it sure was. Yeah, and I guess maybe a good segue would be if they want to remain undefeated, they better clean up, what we saw a little bit on Saturday and a little bit on Thursday. Nick, you kind of alluded to it, that maybe it was a little bit of a scare. So yeah, I know I do, and I know Scar, we guys probably have a little bit of some thoughts on that. So man, maybe going back to Thursday night, I was not on the call, and it was kind of interesting. I got to be there as a fan, and I of course I much rather would have been on the call, but
yeah. Given
our
the
buddy,
choice, right?
Our buddy Pete Gillen was there doing it.
Yeah.
So it was interesting because I'm there in the arena, and I kind of get away from everybody and sit by myself just so I can watch and see it just from a fan perspective.
It's really away from the autograph seekers, Naz.
hiding from autograph seekers and the paparazzi.
Had some
really
sunglasses on with a mustache.
Yeah.
Over there, kind of like
With
Bobby
Inspector Gadget
Valentine
jacket.
did in the dugouts for the Mets a few years back.
That's right. And you guys know, it's like you got to separate. I just really wanted to just watch as a fan and not try to, certainly not analyze. And so it's just interesting. It was just fun to watch. I guess coming away from that, my initial thought was like, I think that 17-point lead I mean, Liberty's offense is so good. I mean, nationally recognized in a few different categories. And we make it look too easy. And so, like, we sit here last week and we talk about New Mexico State's going to come in and they're going to be a really good team and they're going to be tough and physical. And then Scar, you added, hey, they defend the three really well. And then we're sitting there at halftime up 17, and everybody's like, these guys aren't any good. And I guess I just, I felt like the second half really proved and yes, I think we are addressing a little bit of maybe a little bit of mental distraction or lack of losing focus a little bit, but it really that New Mexico State team made it a game because they are really good, and you saw they made it physical. They did exactly what you said, Scar. They held us down from what we're used to hitting from three, made it a really rough grind game, and they wanted to send us to the line. And we did the job that we needed to do. But it was, it was not just, Liberty letting this bad team come back. That was just kind of one of my takeaways.
Yeah, and when you think about that 3-point defense, Liberty only took 15 3-pointers. So that tells you they were running people off of that line and not giving up those practice shots that we see people give up at times. Even the deep ones that Liberty takes, but Liberty still shot a great percentage from three. They only took 15, but they hit 7 of them. So that was the difference. But on the other hand, at the other end, the reason New Mexico State came back, in addition to slowing Liberty down, because remember they had 46 at halftime. And we're thinking, man, maybe they get to 100 tonight. This is too easy. Second half, Liberty only scored 27. So obviously, the anatomy of any comeback is slowing that other team's offensive scoring down, but it's also picking yours up. And I thought that the 3-point shooting, Rezovich, the guard, was 4 for 8 from downtown. Jones was 3 for 6. And those guys hit most of their shots in the second half. When they came to life, boy, it got scary. You think if they had maybe a minute or two more, that might be a different story. In fact, they had the shot to win the game, right? The 3-point shot. If that goes, we might be talking about not an undefeated Liberty team at this point. So a close call, close shave indeed.
Yeah, Jamel Jones, good look at 3 from the right wing there right before the buzzer, and it just didn't go down. And the Flames hold on 73-71. As you mentioned, got outscored in the second half 42-27, led by as many as 17 at halftime. Zach Cleveland ended up with 11 points that night. He becomes the third 1,000-point scorer for the Flames on the current team. Not all time, on the current team. They have 3 1,000-point scorers. We talked about that last week.
Can I ask you a question about that? So is Matheny, does he have 1,000 points at Liberty?
Yes.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
He had a whole career at Bowling Green. So, but just his Liberty career, he's got 1,000 points. Very impressive.
Yeah. Wow. Colin Porter and now Zach Cleveland.
Yeah, and Nick, I don't know if you're going to mention it. Don't want to steal your thunder, but yeah, Liberty's only one of 2 teams currently in the nation that has 3,000-point scorers that are from at their original school. So it's us and Purdue. So good company to have 3 guys. And they honored them before the Saturday little presentation ceremony before Saturday's game. And man, you look at those guys and you're just like, man, there's a lot of points, of course, but a lot of wins in that group. 3 guys, a championship in that group, and they're fighting for another one. So it's like, man, that's a big 3. We've called them the big 3, but they've really earned it.
Yeah. The one thing I would add to that is not at the original school, but at their current school.
At their current school,
Current school, yeah.
So 1,000 points at their current school.
Yes.
Yeah, Matheny
and you talk about those guys, and Decker is the leading scorer of everybody. That's what makes Liberty so good.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
This guy's shooting 50% from 3, leading the team in scoring. It's insanity. I mean, there's just, and when you look at all that, I mean, it's no wonder Liberty's offensive numbers have jumped up so much this year. There's too many things, there's too many weapons to defend out there. And then you've got complementary guys like a Josh Smith, like a J.J. Harper coming in on a given night with 20 points. There's just too many things for you to think about defensively.
Yeah, you're right, Nick. Yeah, and I wanted to mention that because I highlighted Harper as the player to watch on Saturday because he's just in this hot stretch. And again, Saturday it was a different game. They didn't need him to score. We're talking about this high-powered offense. It's different guys, different nights. But he came into Saturday with his last 3 were 13, 20, and 17. And we talked about it last week on the show here that his confidence was really growing. Like yes, he came in and he's got a great defensive mindset and edge, but we just saw him at the rim, he's great above the rim, but we saw him kind of step up and take some shots, and he's hitting some threes, and I just really think he's playing with confidence where if I get the shot and I'm open, man, he's just taking it now.
Yeah, one thing to point out from that UTEP game, Flames win at 80-69. Brett Decker Jr., Zach Cleveland, 20 points each. Another game, though, guys, where the Flames had a 17-point lead in the first half. 3:13 to go in the first half. They're up 39-22. And then we see UTEP go on a run, and they cut it to 3 by halftime. It was 41-38 in a span of 3 minutes and change. But I thought the response from Liberty in the second half was pretty strong. And the biggest difference I noticed, and I'll let you guys speak on it too here, Liberty in the second half just hammered UTEP in the paint. 26-6 points in the paint. They got to the free throw line more, 7 of 9 as opposed to 2 of 4 for the Miners. And then Zach Cleveland didn't miss a shot until that three that he took with about a minute to go. He ends up 9 of 10 from the field. So, and then some invisible stuff for J.J. Harper and Xander Carter, too. They logged some good minutes. We'll get to those two guys in a minute, but just, Naz, your take first. I mean, just calling the game, watching Liberty's response in the second half. Was it more about, you think, what UTEP and New Mexico State did, or was it something Liberty didn't do, and what did you think of their response on Saturday?
Yeah, so a little of both, Nick, because, in scouting that game, we watched certainly UTEP was at Delaware. They won 70-69. And just in kind of prepping, you're seeing they had, Delaware, UTEP had a lot of injuries, and they're starting to get guys back. And so Blackwell was a guy that his first game back was up at Delaware. So Liberty Saturday was his second game back. And, man, you saw what he did, just exploded from 3. And we talked to Coach Golding before the game, and he's just like, and you guys know how it is. It's like you start the year with a whole new roster. They play a pretty tough non-conference schedule, and then you got injuries. So it's like they don't have their whole group together. And watching that and said it, on the air, really felt like UTEP's kind of turning a corner now. They're getting their people. They're playing better. And I think we saw that. So, yes, you got to love Liberty's response. I guess what I thought was interesting or maybe a little scary is, Coach McKay's comments leaving the court in the first half is, he was not happy. And he said, we took our foot off the gas. And, second night in a row or second game in a row. And then here's what's really interesting. Coach Golding comes on and Emily interviews him coming onto the court, and they were down 17. And here's what he says. We saw New Mexico State do it. How scary is that? So it's like they're in the locker room going, guys, another team came in here. They were down 17 and came back, and that fueled them. So, Flames have to clean that up because that's giving people hope that with that high-powered offense, you still have a chance if you keep fighting. So, that's imperative that they, whatever that was, and again, I
can tell you what it was, Naz. They played Liberty basketball, the other teams. Both teams that last week hit 11 threes.
Yep.
And they both held Liberty to 7 threes made.
Yeah.
They outshot Liberty.
Yeah, my thoughts, Scar, then I'm going to let you finish. I just, that mental piece, whatever that is, where if we're losing focus, if we're getting a little careless, that on the Liberty side needs to clean up. But Scar, go ahead on how the other team.
So that focus that you're talking about is on the defensive end contesting threes. There were practice threes going on out there, especially on Thursday versus New Mexico State. I thought they were getting some high percentage threes in that second half, and that's why they were going down. Now, they took a couple of tough ones and made them, but for the most part, Liberty was getting hung up on pin down screens and skip passes, and they weren't getting out on shooters quick enough. And New Mexico State knocked them down. The other thing New Mexico State did was they took care of the basketball. They had Liberty stats when you think about it. They only had 7 turnovers, and they made 11 three-pointers. That's a formula for winning. Now, we talked about how Liberty is winning differently than in the past. They have won being a lockdown defensive team. And we also said that this group is not that. They don't need to be, as we've seen. They've been able to win games at the offensive end. But when you do that, sometimes your defense will allow other teams to get back into the game. And that's kind of what we saw. Liberty kind of played where they play offensively. The defensive end turned that up a little bit. But when you kind of are what you are at this point, we remember last year we were lamenting free throw shooting. They were what they were. They weren't going to get any better shooting the free throws. So this year, they're not a lockdown defensive team, but fortunately, they are one of the most efficient offensive team, maybe the most efficient offensive team I've seen in all of Division One at Liberty throughout my entire life.
Well, like I said, some invisible minutes. I hate to say it like that, but like there was production for J.J. Harper and Xander Carter despite the point outputs on Saturday, and it's something we talked about with Coach McKay on in post game. Some invisible contributions. I'll put it that way. Not minutes. J.J. Harper +9, Xander Carter +20. He played 17 minutes on Saturday. Only scored 2 points. I'll ask you guys, how important is that as you're trying to build some depth? I mean, you're getting more out of Josh Smith now. He's playing starter minutes. Harper's still starting. Maybe you get something more from Carter here. And then Isaiah Enan, who was dressed pregame on Saturday. I don't know how much there is to that. We'll get to it in a minute. But as you're trying to build some depth and make that run for another championship, how important is it to see some production out of guys like that?
You know, it's important, but I honestly feel like Richie McKay has shrunk his bench a little bit, like Xander Yates.
And most coaches do.
They do. But I mean, really, there are 5 guys. Like I think I'm looking at the stat sheet from Saturday. Porter played 33, Matheny 32, Decker 34, Harper 31, Cleveland 34. So he didn't use his bench much. And when he did, it was just Carter, Xander Carter, and Josh Smith, who I think has been 6th man of the year in this league, man. He is during conference play in particular, he has really come on, and his free throw shooting is excellent. He's got good post defense. He plays very active around the boards, and he gives them a real spark off the bench.
Came in, hit a 3,
yep.
hit a 3 the other night
on Thursday.
Yeah, it's like, you're right, Scar. And so, the him certainly is huge. But going back to Carter, it's one of these guys that, again, it's his first year. And so if you're doing the intangibles, that's what you need. You got other guys that are scoring. I think over the weekend, he took 2 charges, which were huge. And, it's like you're hounding guys, you're getting out to contest shots. You're just running offense and getting the ball to scorers. So you need those minutes. He's a guy that I believe is out there. He's diving on the floor. He made a couple saves, and Coach talked about that. Like, if you're going to wear the Liberty, man, it's pretty at times but there's times you got to do the dirty work. And he's like, that's what it takes to be, a Liberty ball player. And Carter's a guy that's diving on the ground and sacrificing his body, so yeah, it takes a whole team, and it's interesting, Scar. You mentioned those minutes. I'm kind of seeing the around the conference, with the exception of a few teams. A lot of teams are playing 5, 6 guys up into the 30s, and it's like. But
the thing, the luxury though, is that if Liberty has to go deep, say someone gets in foul trouble, someone gets dinged up or whatever. I think Richie has shown that he can depend on probably 10 guys to play. I mean, he could go 10 if he needs to, but they believe so much in that top 5, though. I mean, and with reason, as we stated, 3,000-point scorers. You got a sophomore in Decker who's the 4th in the league in scoring. So, naturally, you want to keep those guys on the floor. Yep. And with the games being spaced out a little bit, Richie was able to play those guys more minutes. So I think that's just a byproduct. But we haven't seen the last of some of those other guys off the bench.
For sure. And again, it's a hard spot to be in. But like Xander Yates and Ryan Jones, they're going to have to step in and, hit a 3. and
quickly, right?
Quickly.
Or you're out.
Yes, it's hard to just come off cold off the bench.
You and I know that better than most, I think, in the early parts of our career.
That's right.
That's one of the things that Coach McKay said, that those guys don't come in and necessarily try to, they're not forcing the issue, right? They're just coming, what we need to do in the moment and just be what you need to be, and don't try to be anything more. It's also
Yeah.
one of the things Zach Cleveland talked about after the game on Saturday. I asked him, I said, what's the difference? What's the strength of this team? And he said, really, it's just guys on different nights figuring out what they need to be. Does Caden Matheny need to go out and score 25 points? Does Zach Cleveland need to go score 20, or does he need to be a rebounding force? Does he need to be a point man? It's from an assist standpoint, right? So, like, it's
Nick,
just,
you're right, because New Mexico State, Porter, Matheny have 7 points each. It's
Right.
like, but they what's his name? JJ Harper has 17, and
Yeah.
and
it's an experienced bunch that knows
Smith
what
14. Yep.
they can morph into what they need to be. There's a scouting report element to it, but then there's an in-game adjustment element to it as well that we're seeing. And that's Coach McKay, but that's those experienced players out there too. And I think that's been really fun to watch. Mentioned Isaiah Enon a minute ago. Dressed pregame on Saturday. We saw him kind of fiddling around, taking a few threes. No brace on the knee. Coach McKay was asked about it after the game. He said, I did say earlier this year he's out for the season. His possible return is being, I think, quote, scrutinized is what he said. He's still got to get fitted for a brace. Don't really know. I didn't. This is my feel. I didn't get a feel sitting in the room listening to Coach talk about it that this is something that anyone is really counting on happening. I think it's something that's a possibility. And if there's any possibility, if that window's cracked open at all, Isaiah Enon deserves the chance to try.
Yeah. So
That said, you guys know what this is at this point, what the amount of injuries he's been through, getting him to game speed, game shape. I would say probably late in the season at best, optimistically. Is that fair?
Yeah. I went to I have an inside source here. So I went to
go.
my
Good
inside
tell.
source. Which is my daughter. She's getting her doctorate in physical therapy.
There you go.
So I said, Gabby, can he play? Can you play with a torn ACL? And and then obviously there's a lot of factors, but they're like, yeah, it's not uncommon, but it's going to put some other stress on some other ligaments, but it's not out of the question. He'd have to get it strong and stabilized and whatnot. So it's like, it's not a closed door. Which was really interesting. It was funny because we see him out there, and it took us a minute or two to go. That's Isaiah, and
who's this guy? Yeah,
and so he's warming up, and Emily went over and caught him, at the back of the layup line. It's like, Isaiah, you're not gonna play, are you? Yeah. And he had that big smile. He's like, you never know, or something like that. Like he left the door. It was so awesome. Yeah. But just to see him out there, I'm telling you, and he's got to feel good. Like you're with the team, you're suited up, you're going through warm-ups. There's hope, and again, it'll be what it'll be. We want the best for him. We want him to be safe. But it was cool to see him out there.
And I can tell you, this is pure speculation, but from my perspective, this looks like to me like first let's test to see what would happen if we put him in at the end of a game or something like that, a minute or two.
Yeah.
And you don't want an incident, right? You just want to see if you can get up and down.
Yep.
But the most important thing I think is this guy wants to play in the NCAA tournament and he wants to see the floor. So if this team gets to the NCAA tournament, you will, I think, see him on the floor at some point. So I think they're preparing for that because, they're certainly not going to prepare for him to be a part of the rotation at this point.
Right.
So for him to try to come back from that injury, it would have to be something ceremonial and something significant in terms of, playing in an NCAA tournament or something like that. That's
I would
just
love it
my perspective.
if he can give this team anything down the stretch, anything, and those last few games. I'd love to see it. I think
this is way more about him than what he can give Liberty, though. Liberty has enough to win this league. They have enough to possibly run the table. They don't necessarily need Isaiah to contribute, but this is about him. He's been injured his entire career. He's spent 3 years here now, and he's been injured, and it's just an unfortunate situation for him.
Yeah.
We saw how good he is. He's a great basketball player, and that hurts from a fan perspective. But you really for me personally, I just feel more for him because I know what it's like to want to be out there, sitting there every day, knowing what you can do and then not being able to do it.
Well, and Scar, that's one of the things, Nick. That's one of the things he is given the team. Like
Mm.
how you look at Isaiah and go, man, look at everything he's been through, and the
Hmm.
guy's willing to go through more to get a chance to put the uniform on again.
Great point.
Like, how do you like? And he's as much of them, and he's cheering them, and they're cheering him. Like that's what being a team and a teammate is all about. And so, man, like, how do you take the floor and go, I'm going to give everything I got? Because you got a guy over there who'd give anything to be out here for another minute or two. So, ripples go around the league that Isaiah Eden might be coming back. That ain't all bad either.
Yeah, no doubt.
Good
No
point.
doubt.
Good point.
Some other scores from Saturday. We got a whole lot more to get to here. Other scores from Saturday. Sam Houston beats FIU 76-63. Bearcats actually went 2-0 on the road last week. You had 3 road wins this past Saturday from around Conference USA. New Mexico State beat Delaware 97-68. You had Jax State over La Tech 64-60. Middle beat Missouri State in 2 overtimes, guys, 90-87. Middle Tennessee now 5-2 in the league. And then Kennesaw State, without league-leading scorer Simeon Cottle, beat Western Kentucky this past Saturday as well. That was a huge road win as the Owls go 2-0 on the road, and they've kind of found their footing after a slow start in conference play. But I bring up Cottle's name because of the big news that came down last Thursday. Federal prosecutors charged 26 people, including several former and current college basketball players, in an alleged point-shaving scheme. That's according to an indictment filed last Thursday. 17 former players listed as defendants in the indictment. 4 current players, including Cottle, preseason Conference USA Player of the Year, league-leading scorer at 20 points per game, had just scored 21 the night before the indictment got unsealed. Reportedly suspended from the team. Coach Antoine Petway, no comment on the Cottle situation as it's an ongoing investigation after the game against Western Kentucky. I assume that's the first time he was asked about it. Guys, this was stunning, disappointing. You feel for Coach Petway, you feel for Kennesaw State, you feel for Conference USA. No culpability for those involved, or for the conference or the team involved there, obviously. No culpability there, but you just feel for all involved around this, and it was stunning. What were your reactions when you saw this?
Yeah, I know for me personally, it was stunning because I'm around that program, and I watched them, being here in Atlanta, and I remember when Adrian Woolley was leaving, and then Cottle stayed. It was like, man, that's pretty big for him to stay. But for this to be this close to home, there were some HBCUs involved, and you guys know I cover HBCUs as well. And this was, when you think about, when you hear the term point shaving, right? You know that's kind of, we've been talking about slippery slopes and things of that nature. Well, we just kind of slipped down that slope with the betting when you allow gambling on campuses and you allow gambling on college basketball, college sports in general, right? I don't think this is you mentioned it, Nick. It's not a Kennesaw problem. Certainly not a Conference USA problem. It's a United States problem. It's a sports problem, right? So with that in mind, I mean, it's unfortunate that Cottle is allegedly involved in this. We probably won't see this sorted out to the point where he could come back before the Conference USA tournament. He may have scored his last points in a Kennesaw uniform, but this will all play out. The integrity of the game is the most important thing, period. Right? Obviously, in terms of how we perceive this game going forward. And I'm old enough to remember the Tulane scandal with Hot Rod Williams, and he was shaving points, and he ended up getting Tulane the death penalty. And for, I don't know, 5, 6 years, 10 years, I can't remember the terms, but they didn't play basketball at Tulane for a while. So, you hope that doesn't happen to any of these schools. But man, it shook my world as a guy who's around college basketball and literally around some of the people named in the indictment. And it's just like, wow, this is bananas.
Yeah, for sure. I was shocked as well, and obviously it hits closer to home because it's a Conference USA school and player. But again, just to kind of continue the thought, it's really a shame because another pressure level has now come into this. Like first, you have NIL and all the money that's floating around, and everybody just throw this guy's getting $1 million and this guy's getting 750,000, and we were looking at all the top guys about what they're getting, and sadly some of the guys at the bottom are like, how can I get a piece of this?
Yeah.
And here's what's sad. And again, guys made decisions and they got to live with those decisions, but the fixers, I hope they throw the book at those guys. They went after susceptible teams,
vulnerable kids,
and
right.
vulnerable
Predatory.
kids who, needed, again, you want to make good decisions, but they found a niche. Like, we can approach some people. And again, a lot of guys are from tough backgrounds and have tough family backgrounds. And I just hate that you're infiltrating basketball when there's the most money around and the least amount of supervision and accountability from the NCAA and any parameters and guidelines.
Yeah.
And it came in at a terrible time, and I think there's going to be a lot of fallout.
Well, and that was the thing I noticed too, is if you look at all the schools that were named in the indictment, it was all low to mid-major schools. Yeah. And you look at the timeline of 2023, 2024, I don't think there was any revenue sharing going on at that point either. So whatever money these players were getting were from collectives, and that widely varied. So some of these guys, if true, are seeing these numbers and thinking, oh man, that's big time money. And so, yeah, it was predatory. And so I'm with you, Naz. That's the shame in it. I will say Conference USA, Liberty, I can tell you from experience, do a great job of educating their student athletes, their employees on the dangers of sports wagering. It is something that's become more widely accepted. And look, this isn't sports wagering. This is a scandal.
Fixing.
This is fixing. This is a whole nother level. But it's the league and the schools are doing what they can to try to educate the student athletes, and I think that's all you can do at this point. Looking at Kennesaw State and how it affects them going forward, I mean, kudos to them and the Owls and how they got it done on Saturday against Western Kentucky. R.J. Johnson scoring 31 points in that game. And Naz, I think you said it a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Kennesaw struggling a little bit. Maybe there was a little bit of the syndrome of standing around waiting for Cottle, a special player, to do something. Well, now somebody else has to step up and do something, and it looks like they've got a couple of somebody else's.
Yeah, and it's also kind of a like a circle the wagons kind of situation.
Yeah.
And that brings a team together, like you, or even just thinking about if a guy goes down, a star player goes down with injury, like it's like, hey, here's our time, guys. You got to grow up, freshmen. You got to grow up now. You're more than halfway through the season. You're a sophomore now, and I do think their offense, they'll have to make some adjustments, but teams have done it before, and I do think losing a guy like that makes you play different. Sometimes it's addition by subtraction.
Yeah, and here's the thing, though. Other than that, how's the play, Mrs. Lincoln, right? Because they had a great week. They really did. I mean, they had the player of the week in R.J. Johnson. They had the freshman of the week in Trey Simpson. They won 2 games. They won a road game. And road games in Conference USA, you guys probably know this, but prior to last Wednesday, only 4 road games were even won by Conference USA teams. And 3 of those were by Liberty. So people weren't winning games on the road. So this was a really big week for them. They lose their best player. They're in a national scandal, but they're playing well. They're the second hottest team in Conference USA behind Liberty's 9 wins, Kennesaw with 4 straight. So, it's a bittersweet week right now for them.
Yeah, so Kennesaw State now in 3rd place with, 3 other teams in the league, Western Kentucky, Missouri State, and Jack State. Liberty 7-0 leading the pack. Middle Tennessee 5-2 in 2nd place. 2 games back of the Flames now. Those 2 teams will see each other next week. Looking ahead to this week, though, guys, for Liberty, you got 1 on the road, you got 1 at home. So kind of an odd split week. You got Western Kentucky on the road. The Hilltoppers 8-2 at home. Despite the fact they're just 11-7 this year. One of those 2 losses, though, at home, right, was Kennesaw, right? So the Hilltoppers coming up on Wednesday night at 7:30 Eastern. Then Liberty back at home against Delaware on Saturday that will be a 6 o'clock Eastern game. And Delaware struggling mightily its first season in Conference USA. I don't know if the Blue Hens were ready for this jelly. They are 5-13. overall and 1-6 in the league. It might take them a minute or two to kind of catch up. But outside of that, everybody else in this league has had moments of brilliance this year. And for Liberty this week, guys, Western Kentucky first. I mean, Diddle Arena is a tough place to play. Scar, this Flames team. I mean, do they have another 2-0 week in them there this week?
They might, but again, road wins are hard in college basketball. Road wins are certainly hard in Conference USA. And teams don't go into Diddle very easily over the years. But I'll say this, and I think I said in the earlier pod, this is probably one of the weaker Western teams I've seen in the last decade in terms of talent. But they certainly have enough talent to beat Liberty. I really like Armello Boone, the freshman, might be freshman of the year. And he's done a lot of good things for them. Not a great shooter, but he's a really good distributor of the basketball, and maybe that's what you need. Western, I've seen games at Western, and the atmosphere in Diddle is a little down, and as the team is, and that's a program much like UTEP who has some history going back of major success, and even more recently, UTEP hasn't had recent success, but Western has. But they haven't been to the NCAA tournament in many years now. This is the longest stretch of them not going to the NCAA tournament. Actually, they won it 3 years ago and broke that streak. I take that back. But the Diddle Arena environment used to be worth 3-4 points in a game, but I don't know if it's going to be like that when Liberty goes there. So Liberty certainly has a really good chance of winning that game.
Yeah, and Scar, you mentioned Boone, yeah, great player, and then I'll mention Tegan Moore. A guy that last year sat out due to injury, but he came in as a freshman and showed a lot of promise. And so he's back now, full strength. He's, depending on what happened in the weekend, I mean, he's like the second or third leading scorer in the conference. And so you couple those guys together, and, Western plays an interesting style. Scar, you know it well, that they Coach Plona likes to get up and down and get a lot of possessions and play a little faster. So that's, again, kind of a little unique, especially with Liberty going on the road, one less day to prepare. So a lot of things are going to make that difficult to kind of come out of there with a win. Flames certainly can, but they're going to need a really good performance.
Yeah, Tegan Moore shooting almost 50%. He actually came off the bench against UTEP in a game a couple weeks ago, 68-56 win. Had 19 points off the bench. He might be in their starting lineup by now. I'm not sure. But, yeah, Western Kentucky, you look at some of the common opponents with Liberty. Western Kentucky has wins over Sam Houston and Louisiana Tech, also a win over UTEP, as I just mentioned. And then the losses are to Jacksonville State, New Mexico State, and Kennesaw State. So 6 common opponents there. Western Kentucky 3-3 against the common opponents. Liberty obviously has won them all. They're 7-0 in the league. So make of that what you will. I don't think there's a game left on the schedule. You just look at the net rankings. Liberty right now 91 in the net. There's not a game left on the schedule for the Flames that they're not going to be favored. I mean, Western Kentucky, Delaware, Middle Tennessee, Delaware again, Missouri State, New Mexico State, UTEP, FIU.
Maybe Middle in a couple of weeks in
You think so? Yeah, maybe.
Perhaps.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
on the
next
road.
week.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, perhaps.
Maybe.
They're playing.
It's a
well.
candidate at least.
Yeah. Of all the games that I mentioned, yeah, and maybe that Kennesaw State game towards the end of the year. Who knows? Who knows how the Owls are playing at that point? As we said, they've kind of found their footing a little bit, even with the loss of Cottle here. Who knows? But you just look at the net right now. Liberty 91, only top 100 team in the standings or in the conference right now. But then Sam Houston at 103, Middle Tennessee at 112. So some of these teams have drastically jumped from what they were last year. Sam Houston going up 75 spots from where they finished in the net last year. And then some of these teams have drastically fallen off. You think about a La Tech, who was 129 in the net last year. They've dropped off to 260 this year. Jacksonville State dropping from 115 to 246. So we've seen some kind of erratic behavior, I guess, if you will, in this league as you try to figure it out. I think what I'll say is this, just sizing up the league, and I'll get you guys' take on it too before we start to wrap up here. I feel like the league's not quite as good as it was last year.
I think that's fair. I think the numbers indicate that they're the 12th best league
Yeah.
in the nation, where last year they were as high as sixth,
Yeah.
right? And you think you got the Power Four, and then you have the Big East. That's five right there. And then Atlantic 10, West Coast Conference, and Conference USA were all fluctuating between 6 and 8.
But
So,
the thing I was going to add to that too is, though, I think it's still as competitive as it was last year, and it's still as hard, like you guys were saying earlier, just as hard to win on the road or any given night against some of these teams.
good coaching in this league, and that's
Yeah,
a big
and
part
I think, Nick, I think you're right with the numbers, but what we're finding out about this league is, like, with all this turnover, I think teams are getting good. It's taking longer for teams to get good. I think by Conference USA time, it's going to be just as hard as any other year to go in there, and there'll probably be 3 or 4 teams that you feel like could win it all.
Yeah, by the time the tournament gets here, absolutely. Liberty's the only team right now in the league with a quad 1 win as well. The Flames win at Dayton. Dayton right now 74 in the net as we tape this. So Conference USA against quad 1 this year, only one Q1 win, and that goes to Liberty right now. That said, Naz, you said it. It's going to be all about the Conference USA tournament in March and who can emerge from there. But I think the Flames, while we're not talking about at-large consideration here necessarily for anybody,
no doubt.
I think you are talking about getting off that 13-14 line where you always feared being, and getting on that 12, maybe even stretching it to an 11 and getting yourself a good seed and a chance to pull off something in the first round of the tournament.
And what about we should start to talk about perhaps possibility of running the table? You guys think Liberty runs the table or no?
Go ahead, Naz.
I don't. I just, and just the combination of, teams that are getting better, difficult on the road. I think everybody's due for a game that you just sort of, lay an egg. Even the great ones do. I think UConn, Hurley was just talking about that. Like, they're whatever they are, 18-1 or something. It's like you're just going to get one of those games that it just doesn't fall for you. So, and again, I don't know. I think they just want to play their best. I really,
it doesn't matter is the answer, right?
Yeah, the feeling around the program is not let's stay undefeated. I think it's play, get better, get tougher, play our best ball, and in a way, and you guys have seen this in the past. Sometimes getting that off your back is freeing. So what happens will happen.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Naz. I just think it's. Can they? Yes. Can they run the table? Yes.
Only can. Mm-hmm.
Will they? I kind of doubt it. And that's just more so about just how tough it is to win every night in, night out. I mean, how many teams go undefeated in their league across the country?
Very few. Right. Gonzaga's done it a few times, but in Connecticut, and then on the women's side,
yeah, you're talking about national title contenders.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, Drake had a really good year last year. And, there was definitely teams that have done it, but it's really, really hard to do. And you mentioned it, Naz, because you're going to lay an egg, first of all. But second of all, remember we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Other teams in the offseason think about how to knock you off the top. And if it's the same team that was at the top from last year, even more so. And then if that team gets off to a great start, Liberty is going to get some really quality performances from the other team. We saw it last week in Lynchburg. New Mexico probably shot the ball. Mexico State, I should say, probably shot the ball as well as they have all season. They were hitting shots that they hadn't been hitting. They weren't shooting that well from 3. And, so that's what you're going to get. So with all that, and then the law of averages, and Liberty, talent-wise, is not that much. They're not head and shoulders above this league. I mean, you said it over the weekend, Nick. I thought it was poignant when you texted. It's hard to pull away from anybody in this league, right?
Yep.
So, and again, Liberty was looking down the barrel versus New Mexico State.
Right.
That shot goes, and think about this. FIU took Liberty to overtime.
Right.
So there's not a head and shoulders thing going on here. So running the table is going to be hard. But again, to me, it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, it's not about running the table. It's about running the table in March when you get to Huntsville, Alabama,
That's right.
and winning 3 games and getting to the NCAA
undefeated
tournament.
in Huntsville.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's another episode of the NAZSCAR podcast, part of the Liberty Flames podcast family, presented by Rogers Heating and Cooling. Servicing Greater Lynchburg's HVAC and electrical needs. Schedule your service at callrogers.com. Appreciate you stopping by. As always, hit that follow button, subscribe to the Liberty Flames podcast, Apple, Spotify. You also find us on the Liberty Flames mobile app and, of course, on the Liberty Flames official YouTube page as well. Looking forward to bringing you more Conference USA, more college hoops here this week for the Flames. Liberty again on the road Wednesday night at Western Kentucky at 7:30. And then the Flames are back at home next Saturday against Delaware at 6 o'clock. Hopefully Mother Nature will hold off just enough for everyone to safely get to Liberty Arena next Saturday night this Saturday, I should say, against Delaware. So looking forward to that, guys. As always, appreciate it. Lots of topics today, lots of insight. Always fun to chop it up with you guys.
A lot of fun. Go Flames.
Looking forward to next week. We'll be right back with you here on NAZSCAR, hopefully talking about a 9-0 Conference USA Flames team. We'll see. Until then, for Naz and for Scar, I'm Nick Pierce. This has been NAZSCAR. So long, everybody.